Alright, now this particular topic is a little controversial, and if you don't think it is controversial, it may become controversial after I'm done talking about it. But let me state this here and now. This this is my first of all, this comes from a place of preference. Also, this comes from a place of I have dealt with it my entire life with people I know and people that I care very deeply about, and I have seen many sides of the negative of it and seen very little positives about it. So, what I'm going to talk about, if you do not wish to talk about this one, if you do not wish to hear me talk about this one, I understand. Please understand that I am not judging anyone falsely or harshly. I am not condemning anyone. I am not trying to demonize anyone because of their substance abuse or anything like that. That is not what I'm saying at all. This is just me clearing the air and just basically explaining some things. Alright, so with all that being said, I'm going to talk about marijuana and does the Bible actually talk about it? Let's begin. First, I have heard many different Christians who use marijuana as well for medicinal purposes, and let's be honest, a lot of them actually abuse it for medicinal purposes. They use a card and say it's for medicinal purposes, but they clearly abuse it. They clearly basically use that card just so they can legally have it. Now, I do acknowledge that there are people who genuinely do need it. They need the supplements, and they don't do it to get high. They don't do it for, to get high. Like I said, they don't use it for those reasons. They use it for, they have headaches, and it's pretty much the only thing that they can use to curb their headache. But I would argue that, certain pills. But at the same time, I've also spoken with people, and they said that, well, certain medicines make them very sick, and marijuana is the only thing that actually helps them that does not make them sick. And in that case, I'm like, I'm okay with it for medicinal reasons, like actual medicinal reasons. I won't ever do it. I do not trust it. But that is something that I just don't like it. I have lived my entire life drug free and alcohol free, and marijuana counts as a drug. It alters your mind. It basically causes you. It relaxes your muscles, sure, but it does affect your lungs because you are still breathing in toxic fumes. So yeah, they are clearly not as bad as cigarettes. Obviously, let me state that, but at the risk of sounding like I'm being overly judgmental to people, because I don't want to come off that way, so I do apologize. I will get back on topic, and I will just continue with what I was saying. As far as marijuana being mentioned in the Bible, I've heard people say there's a Bible verse that basically specifies that, oh, this particular herb they would get high with the herb of the plants, or they would get pleasure or peace of mind through the herb or something like that. They would always try to spin it, and I'm like, that can't be a thing. That cannot be a thing. There is no. I'm like, I never heard, and I've never read in the Bible where anyone was ever high from marijuana in the Bible. That is not a thing. But pardon me for what I'm about to say, but I have seen many marijuana users, potheads if you will, who go to their, Demka shops, go to their Tobacco Plus stores, and they get them t-shirts going like, God made the earth, the trees, and this weed, and stuff like that. And I just basically shrug it off as like, whatever, anything to make you feel better, I guess. Whatever helps you sleep at night, dude. And I shouldn't be that way, which is why I'm making this video. Again, this is not to condemn or anything. And I'm going to try to finish this video without coming off negatively anymore, because, again, I do apologize. I'm not trying to come off negative. Alright. What does the Bible actually say about marijuana? The King James Bible does not mention marijuana, cannabis, or any similar terms directly, and therefore does not speak about it positively or negatively. The plant was known in the ancient Near East, but the biblical texts do not contain specific references to its use. Basically, they acknowledge that it exists, but it is nowhere documented of its, medicinal purposes or people getting high or anything like that, or even consuming it or using it for any purposes. They just basically say like, yeah, there's a similar herb. They don't even say it is cannabis. They just straight up say there's a herb that that they assume could have been marijuana, but they probably didn't know that it was marijuana, or it's a plant that was similar, but it is not in the Bible. Arguments that the Bible supports the use of cannabis often stem from a misinterpretation of general passages or specific Hebrew words. Every herb bearing seed, Genesis 1:29. Some point to this verse to argue that all plants, including cannabis, were given by God for human use. However, this verse refers to plants for food, and this principle does not apply to all plants for all uses, e.g., poisonous plants or using a plant in a way that causes intoxication. So, again, not cannabis. The Bible does not say, yes, we get high. Sweet calamus, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Exodus 30:23. There is a claim that the Hebrew phrase cannabosem, I cannot pronounce that properly, so I'll just put it on the screen, translated as sweet calamus or fragrant cane in the King James Version, and most other versions, actually refers to cannabis. This theory, had to scroll again. This theory is not supported by mainstream Hebrew scholars or lexicons who maintain the traditional translations. Instead of direct references, Christians' perspective on marijuana use generally rely on broader biblical principles regarding sobriety and a clear mind. The Bible frequently encourages believers to be sober-minded, alert, and to have self-control, e.g., 1 Peter 5:8, 1 Thessalonians 5:6-8. Intoxication, whether from alcohol or other substances, is generally viewed as contrary to these principles. Another point is the body is a temple. Passages like 1 Corinthians 6:19-20 emphasize that the body is a temple of the Holy Spirit and should be used to glorify God. Using substances that harm the body or lead to the addiction is often considered a violation of this principle. Moderation and addiction. While the Bible acknowledges the moderate beneficial use of wine, it strongly condemns drunkenness and being mastered by any substance. Well, there we go. We touched on two topics right there. Intoxications being drinking of alcohol and marijuana usage. You can check out that verse that I just mentioned from 1 Corinthians 6:12. Ultimately, in conclusion, the King James Version itself is silent on the subject, and different Christians apply biblical principles to reach different conclusions regarding marijuana, especially concerning its modern medicinal uses. There we go. Hope that clears some things up for y'all, because I live my life as a Christian straight edge person, if that makes any sense, because it doesn't mean anything to just say I'm Christian anymore, because there's so many Christians who drink, get drunk, smoke weed, smoke cigarettes, smoke cigars, do pills, other substances, and so just saying you're Christian doesn't explain anything to a lot of people. So I say I'm straight edge, and people go, oh really? And I'm like, I'm Christian straight edge. I don't do any substance. I used to have a t-shirt that said Christian straight edge Leowolf, but the more and more I started thinking about that shirt, it felt more braggadocious than it did, just trying to answer future questions from people, because that was the whole intent. I was doing the shirt because I made a custom t-shirt, and I'm like, I'm tired of answering all these questions because people will literally go down the list and ask me these things of like, what do you do? Marijuana? No. Drinking? No. And etc. etc. So I made the shirt for that. But the more I thought about it, the longer I had it in my closet, because I didn't hardly wear it because I started feeling convicted wearing it, because I'm like, I'm like, this just feels like I'm kind of bragging. And yeah, it's you should be proud of not harming your body in that way, but I feel like I'm kind of mocking people or rubbing it in people's faces. I'm bragging. I feel like this is kind of vain to wear this shirt. So the more I thought about it, I'm like, I don't want to condemn people. I don't want to make people feel bad because they do something that I don't. And I feel like this shirt is giving off the opposite impression that I want it to. So I got rid of the shirt, and I just basically, I'm like, you know what? I'll just tell people. They'll have to take my word for it. I'm not going to wear a shirt that rubs it in their face. I'll just tell it to them like it is. Be honest and transparent in a positive way to them. But with all that being said, even though I'm short, I hope I reached you. May God bless. Farewell wherever you fare. And I'll see y'all next time on Walk with Wisdom.